Hi, my name is Dylan, and welcome to Save It for the Blind podcast. Today, we are talking with our hunt program coordinators about the hunt program. How you doing, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Hey. Of course. So today, we're going to talk about the hunt program and what kind of capacities, you guys are involved in and all the different areas and elements that I think the hunt program with California Waterfowl does provide for kids or people that are just wanting to get into hunting. So I think kind of the first starter question that I'm kind of curious about is, how did the hunt program get started and what was the original ideas for that?
Yeah, so the hunt program that we know it today in terms of the kind of lottery-based system, private properties kind of for the public consumer, started in 2009, but previously to that, we were doing youth hunts and family hunts at some properties that we didn't own yet, but we had access to. And then basically, we had a lot of relationships with landowners, right? So, the economy in 2009, everything's kind of going south, and it was just another way to kind of provide a service to our members. And, the goal was to hopefully bring in a few dollars as well. So we reached out to all the landowners and said, "Can you guys donate and open your properties, to our members, so people can go in, apply." We do not make people be a member when they apply, but if they do win a hunt, they have to go now. So like in its infancy, 50, 60 people a year, right? And now we're close to 3,000 hunters a year. So we've definitely have grown a ton in not only waterfowl, but deer, turkey, doves, and then if you take our veteran program, we do fishing trips, and we've sent people to Alaska and things like that, on all expenses paid. So yeah, we've really grown, a ton, and that was mainly due to us acquiring some properties through grant funding and other ways, and then just still our outreach and whatnot. And we've had some tough times. We've had huge droughts. We've had COVID during that time, and we've continued to grow. So all those things are great, but it just provides an avenue for just the regular hunter that may or may not have a ton of access to go in and hunt a place that they probably never would have unless they knew a landowner. So, we provide that service. So the number one reason why hunters get out of hunting is the lack of hunting access. So that is the void that we're trying to fill. So if you look at our numbers, we're basically an equivalent to a smaller refuge, the number of people that we put out on the landscape a year. So that's something that we're extremely proud of. But it's just been growing every year, and we feel like we provide very quality hunting experiences where, our people that attend, they like it because it's not necessarily what can be a combative experience sometimes on public property. We space out blinds and we provide boats and decoys and, UTVs and things like that where, it's a quality experience. Not every single experience is the best hunt of your life. We would love it to be, but it's just quality from when you get there until you leave. It's just a nice experience you could bring, a first-time hunter, your kid, your wife, your best friend, whoever it may be, and just know that, ducks or no ducks, everything is going to be a nice process, and that's what we kind of really strive ourselves on in terms of the hunt program. But what do you think, Carson?
Yeah, I mirror that completely. I think in addition to the general hunt program like Jeff was talking about, we do some camps over the waterfowl season where we are able to get out brand new hunters and match them with a mentor. We call them mentor guides. They're volunteers that we have vetted that are safe, experienced, and we'll get out there and take these new hunters that have signed up for our camps and actually take them out into the field, teach them, because, I can't be out there with 12 different groups at our Grizzly Ranch property, and I got to be back making sure everything's fine. So we have all these people taking out new hunters, kind of passing on that tradition of hunting. So it's their way to give back to the hunting community. Along with those camps, we do, kids camps during the hunting season. We have one at Bird Haven Ranch, which is the same thing. Those kids are going to go get their hunter's license And then they're going to have a mentored hunt that next day where they're going to be in a safe environment and they're going to be given somebody with them that knows exactly what they're doing. So the experience that they get is going to be complete, safe, and fun. And that's what really I kind of key in on as a hunt program coordinator, is these experiences that are allowing these new hunters to get out there. Our general hunt program really caters to those hunters that have the experience and are able to, apply. If they get drawn for a hunt, they can go out there and do them themselves. But these camps allow those folks that have never done it before to then go out and hopefully by the end of the weekend be able to successfully go out by themselves and kind of bridge that gap of becoming a hunter that just has their hunting license and doesn't know what's going on to a hunter that is now confident in their abilities to set decoys, call ducks, ID birds, know bag limits, and go out by themselves and to continue that tradition. He's seen, as well as I've seen, people from our camps come back in just a general hunt program, hunt by themselves. I actually have a gentleman that has attended my duck camp 3 years ago as a brand new hunter. He took what we taught him, ran with it so much that he is now coming back as a mentor guide to teach other people.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that kind of revolution of new hunters to old hunters and teaching is, I think, what really, for me, the hunt program is about, when it's not just about, the general hunts that we put on.
Yeah, and in particular, the duck camp that Carson's mentioning, it's kind of A to Z if you want to get into waterfowl hunting. And like he mentioned, we've had a ton of people that, they're what we call adult onset hunters. They're adults getting into hunting for the first time. And that camp, duck camp, provides everything that you need to go out hunting if you weren't, particular waterfowl hunting, if you've never been brought up in it. So that's one component of what we call our R3 programs, which is recruit, retain, and reactivate hunters. So we have our main hunt program that we kind of call our general draw, getting people out. Okay, we have a duck camp, which you're introducing people into it. You're recruiting them. So with all the programs that we do at California Waterfowl, which is the hunt program, our youth camps, which is called Camp Sprig, our duck camp stuff, college camp, etc. It's all kind of geared towards what we call these R3 initiatives, and this is a nationwide push, and we've been doing it for 20 years basically, just providing these opportunities for people to get into hunting, because as we know, access is the biggest barrier to get into it. So we're kind of providing the access and then the knowledge to kind of stay into waterfowl hunting. And countless folks of, brand new, we've seen families like get into it as a family, and like 10 years later, like they're just avid, go to the refuges, like they're just in it. And to me, that's been super gratifying to know that you had a part in that and to see that they're like just flourished as
definitely.
Yep. Yeah.
When you guys were, growing up, you both come from kind of a hunting background. And so, obviously you are part of something that probably did not exist for you when you were younger.
Yeah.
So does that give you kind of a leverage to provide something for the younger kids or college kids that maybe you wish you would have had?
Well, I think it's the big dilemma we have nowadays in hunting is there's two trains of thought. You either come from a hunting background and you have that figure in your household or a friend or a neighbor that guides you through kind of the stages of hunting. And then there's the mostly, like Jeff mentioned, the adult onset or onset hunters that are, 20 plus years of age. They're getting into it for a multitude of reasons, whether it's they want to harvest their own food, whether they found it interesting, and they don't have that figure to lead them through all the rules and regulations, what to do. And we try to serve as that gap filler as best as we can. And I don't think there's a better program out there than ours to do that when we can provide. I mean, our duck camp is 2 fully guided hunts with mentors, food and drink, instructions on how to apply for refuges, decoy setup, calling, and at that, by the end of the weekend, like that person who has no clue is a full-fledged duck hunter. And that gap, the only thing that in my mind is not the greatest is we can't do more. I mean, it's only myself and doing 2 of those in a duck season along with all the other duck hunts takes up most of my time. I wish we could do it every single weekend, but we just can't.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, and that would be such a benefit to anyone if it was offered so much. But I think there also is that balance of it's almost sought after. If there's not that many, it's like, okay, I have to make sure that I make this a priority for myself.
Yeah.
To go out and learn. And I'm sure it's very intimidating. I mean, like I said, I don't come from a hunting background, so if I were to not be with California Waterfowl, there is no way. I mean, outside of going with my husband to go hunt or whatever, like there's no way that I would just go up and find out how to go hunt by myself.
Yeah,
no way.
100%.
Yeah, it's daunting, right? I mean, it's a challenge, but we're seeing people now like they saw something online and they're wanting to like, oh, I'm gonna Google California hunting, and like we'll pop up with all of our programs, and that's where like, oh, they have women's hunts. Oh wow, they have these duck camps or whatever, and that's where we get a lot of people, into our programs. It's kind of through that avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, like the kids that come to Camp Sprig? Do you see them eventually kind of full circle and then do like a draw or anything? Do you see that full circle, and how does that make you feel? I mean,
yeah, the camps are hard. Well, because the kids grow up, right? So you're like, hey, Jeff, and you're like, hey, you're like, hey, it's Tim. You're like, hey, Tim. Hey, you're my hunter instructor at Grizzly Ranch.
8 years later, the kid has a beard.
And I'm like, what year? And they'll tell me, you're like, oh yeah, I remember, but they look so different, right? But yeah, there's definitely that. But the thing with the kids, unless the parent or someone in the family is a hunter, that kid gets their license and they're not able to go, right? And that's the thing with the R3 program. That dynamic is tough, right? They need to have someone that's a mentor that's going to take them out, because there's no other opportunities. If you're a 12-year-old and you want to go and there's no one to take you, you're not going, right?
You're supposed to do walk.
Yeah, you can't go out by yourself. So, that's a barrier.
One of the things that we did recently with CWA and myself and Jeff is created a how-to video series that we're going to be putting out that is hopefully going to bridge that gap for, somebody who's not going to be attending those camps can go watch those videos. And it's not as in-depth as, being at that camp, but it'll give you basics of duck calling, what you need to have equipment-wise, where to set your decoys and why. So be on the lookout for that on our YouTube channel, because that's going to be coming soon. But there'll be a whole series of videos that we put out that will hopefully, for new hunters, try to bridge that gap a little bit more.
And this will be a good kind of like intro to duck calling and all of those things. Even if before you go buy a gun or like any of those more heavy, tasks. I mean, even just duck calling. I mean, Jeff, I know that you are really good at some duck calling. So, I mean, it probably takes a lot of practice and confidence to do that in the comfort of your own home first.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, even like, you just got your hunting license, you got to go to a class. Okay, I got a hunting license. I can go hunting. Okay, now you need to go register to go buy a gun. Now you need this to go buy the ammo. So it's just all those little hurdles that you have to jump through that are hard, where, with some of our programs, we provide a lot of that gear, let's say, where it's like we get the phone call, hey, don't come from a hunting background. I don't have any gear. Can I sign up for your event? Yep, we got waders, jackets, loaner gear, whatever. What do I need? Like, just pack some warm clothes and a sleeping bag, and we'll see you there. And we try to really like, the cost of the event is super reasonable for like the weekend. I mean, it's less than a hotel room would cost you. And you get food, lodging, all that good stuff. But that's what's hard with the R3 program in general, across the nation. It's hard to put scale on it, right? I mean, we need these programs going every single week throughout the country, to really make a huge dent. I mean, we're trying our best, and little by little, we're getting new hunters.
But as two people, we're doing the most we can.
Yeah, but pretty much
we're getting there.
So, I know that you mentioned the hunt program hasn't like existed for a terribly long time.
Yeah.
So, and I know that the original plan was just to provide something that wasn't there already to give more opportunities. So was that the original goal for it, or was the goal to just have something else at CWA that you guys could provide?
Well, I think the original goal is, be able to provide access to hunters, if we're able to make the connection kind of for them, right? So, I mean, obviously it's really hard with access in general. If you don't know the landowner, very few people have the guts to go up to someone that they do not know and knock on the door and say, hey, could I have hunting permission to come out here? Especially in California. I mean, it can be pretty challenging, right? So we're able to make that, that bridge because we have the relationship with the landowner and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. This is how we're going to structure it. This is the liability that we're going to provide you. This is the plan. And we had a lot of landowners say, yeah, I'm all in on that. So we're just able to help the hunter with that access point. So I don't think when it started, I don't know if we knew how big it was going to be now, and we're continuing to grow. But like I said, when we first started, it was 50 hunters a year. Right? We're doing that at one hunt day now, right?
Yeah. So easy. One property, one hunt day.
Yeah. So I mean that's the scale, right? So it's just has continued to grow every single year.
Yeah, and our only limitation is access and properties. If we continue to get access and continue to get properties, it's going to continue to grow at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and I see that return in the people that you take out. I mean, whether it's Colton Mikovits from the 49ers or it's a child that's wanting to go to Camp Sprig for the first time, I think you see that result at the end of the hunt or the camp, and you see it in their face that they just got their hunter's ed and they're excited about it and they can't wait to go and brag to their friends. Or you get someone like Colton that you're getting other football players that are going to come out and hunt. And I think that only just amplifies what you guys do, because no matter if it's, the concept of hunting or just having a good experience, I mean, it's an overall positive one in general. So, I mean, that's something good to have just for you guys as well. I mean, outside of the hunting world, because a lot of people have their own opinions. So,
Yeah, and I think that's just, opinions in general. The concept of hunting, like when we do college camp, right? Everyone that comes to college camp, is going to graduate or has graduated in a degree in wildlife biology. None of them are hunting background. Some of them are vegetarian. It's a gamut of backgrounds, but they know hunting's important, right? But they don't grasp the hunter's role in that. And then, like, after the weekend, like, they get it.
Yeah.
They're like, I see why people do it. I support it now 100%. And so to show more people about that, and I think, like, once you go through a hunter ed class, right?
Absolutely.
Or if you go out in a wetland, you're like, all right, start putting some of the pieces to the puzzle together and figure out what hunters really do. Because some people probably have, an image of a hunter, and they think everyone's within that box, and that's just not the case.
Well, and, I think also if you didn't grow up with like your dad hunting and you hunt, or you're very closely knit with hunters, whether it's your cousins or whoever, or your friends, you see the people that you went to school with, and those people may not be your friends. So then you're seeing this image of what hunting is through a different lens that maybe not be 100% accurate. I mean, when I went and was at the Camp Sprig with you guys, I was able to see from start to finish, one, how much work you guys do, first off, and then two, what all else goes into hunting. It's not just shooting an animal and it's like, woo, it's looking at an animal, wanting to seek that out, shooting it, and then doing something else with it, whether you're putting more birds back out there or you're taking it home for dinner. And like, it just doesn't just stop with the gun. And I think that's what's cool coming from somebody who doesn't grow up in that aspect. You're getting to see the full circle and why that's important versus going to McDonald's and getting a burger. I mean, it's still an animal getting killed one way or another. So would you want to be in control of, the process of that animal, or have someone else do it? I mean, that's the reality you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people have lost the process, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Oh, it's a steak. Okay, where did that steak come from?
Yeah.
So, but my experience has been, people might not have hunted or has ever tasted wild game, but when you put it in front of them, I think most people are pretty open to it. Like, okay, I can respect that, especially this day and age, like foodies and whatnot. Like, know where your food's coming from. I think people kind of I think the respect on the hunter front is starting to make some waves.
I'd agree.
I think so too. Yeah. I think I also think if people are willing to listen, they're
Yeah.
willing to understand, and then they can hear the different side of things. I mean, there's obviously certain people that I know, and they're like hunting, blah, and they don't want to listen. But if you can listen, then you can understand, and you can at least see it from a different perspective than just your own.
Right.
Because I will never know everything, neither will you. And so it's always, if we're constantly learning, then we can always be getting better. And so I think that's what the hunt program does provide, is the ability to learn more. I mean, whether if you're the hunter or you're just the person that wants to understand more and learn, and if you're the woman and your spouse hunts and you're like, okay, I just want to learn more about the animals that they're shooting or taking home and hunting, that aspect is cool too, like learning about the males and the females of birds and their feathers and just those sort of things I geek out to on my own. So that's been cool to know. So with the hunt programs, there's obviously the hunt programs with, college camp and kids camps and stuff, but we also have the veteran hunt program. So how did that kind of originate and get off the ground, and what kind of prompted it to get itself going?
Yeah, so basically we had a group out of Camp Pendleton that asked for some support on base for like decoys and stuff. And at the time, I'm running the hunt program and all that, and it's kind of in its infancy as well. And basically got a call from one of our fundraisers say, hey, we'd like to host this group of, at the time they were part of, it's called the Wounded Warrior Battalion. So it's actually guys, going back into rehab and whatnot, but they're still enlisted. We'd like to host them up at Grizzly Ranch. So I said, yeah, I got it, coordinated it. And basically we provided, a week's long of waterfowl hunting, food, lodging, all that. I had a bunch of volunteer guides stay the whole weekend, cook all the meals, like really did it up the whole weekend, right? And Scott Mueller had wrote an article kind of about it the weekend in our magazine. And once it hit mailboxes, I got a couple phone calls from a couple club members down in the grasslands. Is, hey, we'd like to do that. I'm like, do what? And,
Elaborate, please.
Yeah, we'd like to host veterans at our duck club. And I was like, oh, all right, well, yeah, sure. And then we had a local group at the same time. They contacted me like, hey, we want to get a bunch of our guys with their hunter ed. Said, perfect.
Yeah.
So I got them their hunter ed, and then we sent those guys down to the duck clubs in the grasslands. So that was 2011 was our very first hunt with the Wounded Warriors. 2012, we did a little pilot program and sent the veterans down. And then in 2013 is when we actually made the actual veteran hunt program with the official logo, and had a bunch of more landowners come up, and we actually started pushing it out and made it to what it is today. But so basically, essentially, we provide private access for free to veterans. So they would sign up, food, lodging, and then we usually give them goodie bags, shotgun shells, hats, challenge coins, all that good stuff. But that's kind of how it started. It wasn't necessarily a vision, but we did one hunt, and there was just traction on it. And then I just kind of took it and ran with it. And then the goal was always to have a veteran run the program. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not a veteran myself, but so I ran it for a very long time. And then I had a guy, Colonel Mike Peters, is like bugging me. Hey, I want to help. I want to help. Like, hey, I got it. Yeah, you want to help. And finally, I'm like, hey, let's talk, right?
Yeah.
So we talked, and I absolutely love Mike. And so Mike took it over and was doing all the stuff I was doing on a day-to-day basis and getting people registered, sending them on hunts, dealing with the landowners, getting all the stuff there, et cetera. And then kind of as he moved and retired, Mike Kellogg came on, and now he's kind of running the day-to-day. So we all collaborate and kind of where the program's going. But they're two people that they're veterans themselves, and they're volunteers for California Waterfowl running the veteran hunt program. And that's what the goal was once we finally made it a real program, early on. And we're finally there now, and it's just, they've took it and ran, and it's just been extremely successful. And it's probably one of the proudest things I've done, at CWA, and kind of, because you could meet guys and meet people and like their stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, hey, I was in some rough times, and like that hunt was like turning key, you know, and especially like early on when we were doing the hunts with the Wounded Warrior Battalion. I mean, we're still in conflict, right? And not that the conflict hasn't really stopped, but I'm just saying, like, these guys were wounded recently, like sometimes within weeks, and then like at the hunt. So it was like, you listening to them talk, it was pretty eye opening and just kind of humbling being around those types of folks, you know, in terms of just a regular citizen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, in most recent, you know, we put out the veteran hunt video, and I think kind of what you realize is, you know, you see these individuals, they're veterans, they're in the military, they're going to fight for our freedom, and, you know, they obviously endure a lot from all of that. And so when they come back, you know, you think, you know, that you're fighting for your freedom and you're supposed to be coming back like good to go, and you don't really come back free. You know, a lot of them come back with PTSD or anxiety, stress, and like all these other mental health matters. And so I think that this has created sort of an outlet for these individuals, you know, whether it's because of hunting or just for, you know, these individuals to bond with one another over the stuff they've seen and had to do. And
the biggest thing that we get from these guys is like, this is the camaraderie that I missed. Like, that's what I hear over and over and over again. It's like, this is what I missed when I got out. It's a camaraderie. It's not even the hunting the ducks. It's being with those guys the night before.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they want.
Yeah, and that's huge. But it goes back to, you know, the NFL team. Like, just being around the guy, it's just, once you're removed from that, it's tough. I mean, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes, like, after duck season, when things slow down a little bit, you're like, man.
Now what?
Right? Like,
I haven't seen Jeff in like 3 months.
Jeff hasn't called me in one day. What the heck? But you know what I mean? Like, people will need to be around people, and you need those connections, right? Yeah. And that's those guys, you know, and females, they come back and they get removed from it, right?
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to plug them back into their own community. And we've had a ton of guys, you know, make their own connections with the hunts, and, you know, now they're off hunting with the people that they met at the event. So that's what the program is really about, is like, it's all about the healing and the camaraderie, you know, at the hunts. So we're a facilitator of that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like we spoke with earlier, I mean, you care so much about, you know, whether it's hunting or being the provider for it, you know, any of those elements, you have such a passion for hunting as an umbrella. Yeah. And so when other people are getting involved in it, that, you know, that it's helping them, or that maybe just talking to you is helping them. I mean, I think that speaks volumes across all levels. I mean, you can't sit here and say that you don't love a veteran, because that person is doing something that is so unspeakable and can't be returned. You know, all the things that they have to go through in order for us to get to come on here and have a podcast and 100%. Talk about hunting, you know, like they are doing, you know, the Lord's work, if you will. And so it's cool that we do have this program that provides that for them, so that it kind of provides sort of an ease out of working in that field to this one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So the hunt program this year is going to offer a bunch of different hunts. Most of the times we're going to offer, you know, the ducks, geese, turkey, dove. So we're going to have all those this year, but we're also going to have pheasant hunts down at Goose Lake, which is down by Bakersfield. We have 2 deer hunts this year. One of them has already been drawn for, but one of them will be drawn for coming up in a few weeks. Fall turkey hunts, dove hunts, pretty much you name it. We also have some pig hunts that will be going every other week at a property in the Bay Area. It's been very successful so far. So if you're interested in those, look at calwaterfowl.org under the hunt program. You can see our hunt descriptions and then apply from there.
Nice.
But the draw for the deer...
Draw for the deer Saturday, will be this Saturday, yeah. So by the time this comes out, hopefully somebody watching this will be drawn.
How much does it cost? Only $1.
$5. Close. It was a joke. It was a deer joke. You missed it.
Woo!
That was a deer joke, wasn't it?
He's not a big deer guy.
You know where I heard a different joke, but I won't say it. But I heard it at the Camp Sprig, and I was like, I'm going to have to take that one to the bank.
One of the kids?
Was it the girl that liked the Shastas?
Shastas.
Shasta.
That was funny.
I miss her. I hope she's doing well.
So $5 and then
Yeah.
$25 to attend the hunt.
Unless you're a youth hunter, that's free.
That's true.
Huh. Everyone has $5. I mean, that's like going to the ice cream truck.
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yeah, it'll be 7.
Yeah.
So, with those, types of hunts and with hunting on the horizon, what is our properties looking like? How are they doing?
So I'm kind of in charge of getting our properties ready in the southern part of kind of what we call, the state, but it's basically from Suisun Marsh down, while Jeff is in charge of the northern area. So for me, Grizzly Ranch is looking great this year. We got a ton of rain, as everybody knows, through December, through March, which takes down the salinity. We get a lot fresher water, which we're able to grow better food out there for the ducks. So that's looking great. On the 22nd, which is 10 days away, we're actually going to start flooding that property, which is the earliest we've flooded it in a long time. So that's also a bonus. Denverton is going to be different this year. So Denverton is our other property in the Suisun Marsh. It has a large chunk of it has gotten taken over by an invasive tumbleweed. And we have figured out that the only way to kill that tumbleweed is to flood it completely, which kills the seeds. So this is the first time ever that Denverton hasn't been dry since duck season, and it won't be dry all the way, basically running through hunt season. So as far as what we're expecting, we don't really know because we've never had this happen before. There is a lot of cattail growth throughout the property, a lot less open water. So my guessing from my experience in 7 years of being at Denverton and running properties, I would guess we're going to have hopefully higher mallard numbers with the cattails growing around, but it might be lower overall numbers because there's not as much open water around. So that's still to be seen. It could be the best year we've ever had. We've just never had this situation before. But if we were to leave that tumbleweed the way it is, it would completely outcompete all of the natural vegetation, and we would have nothing there except for tumbleweed. So it's something that we have to do to take care of it.
I mean, if you're from the Midwest, it's perfect.
Well, yeah,
just
not
tumbleweed
here.
down.
So Suisun properties are looking good. Further down south, we have an island out in the Delta called Quimby Island. That has been great for us. We actually installed, I believe, 3 or 4 new blinds last year, which made a big difference in our hunting. It improved our hunting quality immensely. They've been doing lots and lots of dirt work out there. A lot of the units previously were the elevations. You'd be walking right here at one point, and then the next point you'd be all the way up to the top of your waders. And we took big tractors and leveled those areas. Okay. So it's going to be a lot better for the hunters that we have out there. The blinds are in the right positions. That property has been on the up and up the last 3 years, and it is a very, very highly sought after property in our hunt program.
Yeah.
And then further south from that is our Goose Lake property, which is all the way down by Bakersfield. And that one's always a toss-up. We never know if we're going to have water, if we're not going to have water. But we have come to realize that this year we're going to have the most water we've ever had down there.
Wow.
Lots of water.
We have
this year.
lots of water. We have 2 units down there. One is called the Houchin unit, and one is called the Badger Almond. And both are basically going to be flooded to capacity, which we've never had.
Yeah.
So there's going to be tons of opportunity down there. We're also going to have planted pheasant hunts down there as well. So the folks that are down in the Southern California area are going to have lots of hunting opportunity for CWA property, Goose Lake. So keep an eye out for that on our hunt program site.
And food growth down there.
Food growth.
Some of the watergrass units down there are impressive. Yeah.
There is a lot of food. So I'm excited to see. It's interesting because everybody kind of, as a hunter, really eyes the Butte Sink properties as the jewels of our properties. But our Goose Lake Badger Almond property, it opened in late December last year because the ducks don't really migrate down there until later in the year. But from December on, that property had the highest bird average out of any of our properties. Wow. So it's definitely an overlooked property.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Now, at each of these, properties, and I know you say ducks, and obviously there's waterfowl and things. Is there specific species of these ducks and birds that I can find at each of these islands if I'm hunting one specific thing?
It's pretty specific to the property, I would say, depending on where you're at. Like Suisun Marsh, you're going to get a lot more spoonies, teal, etc. Like a quimby. Mallards is usually the number 1 bird taken. Wood ducks. down south.
Teal spoons. We also have Staten Island, which isn't a CWA owned property, but we have a lease that allows us to hunt it. And that's basically, for the first bit of it, is all geese. And then the ducks show up a little bit. And then it goes back to being strictly geese pretty much after. So we do have hunting opportunity out there this year as well. It's going to be rice blinds, just as it was last season.
Yeah, so that's a partnership with another nonprofit to provide, access. So that's been really good success-wise. Plenty of space between blinds. The amount of birds the island holds as a whole
can be impressive. Can be very impressive.
Yeah, and then you go back up in the Butte Sink, and Sanborn is, I would say, more of a mixed bag. You could shoot every single puddle duck that's out there. Or Butte Creek Island Ranch, tournament on the time of the year, it could be high on wood ducks, and then mallards, and then widgeon and things like that. But like at Sanborn, they'll shoot everything in one day: teal, gadwall, spoonies, pintail, mallards. Where Butte Creek, not so much. It's kind of more specific because it's a little bit tighter. Mostly all smartweed and whatnot, kind of thicker.
Yeah, how are those properties looking this year compared to previous?
The best that they've looked since we've owned them, and I would say they look, prior to our ownership of them, best they've ever looked in a very long time. So Butte Creek Island Ranch, kind of status quo, ton of duck food, smartweed, watergrass, particular. Sanborn, you have smartweed, watergrass, and lots of timothy as well. Because we have, Sanborn is kind of long and narrow. So like the west side of the property is kind of pretty heavily treated and whatnot. And then the east side of the property, it's kind of like more of an open tule marsh. But we've did a ton of tule transplants last year, this year prior to flood up. Tomorrow we're planting a bunch of, year-old willow trees, black willows. So the property is on the up and up, being Sanborn. We were able to redo the property a couple years ago, and with the droughts and some delays with pumps and electrical whatnot, this is the first year we're actually able to irrigate it in the springtime. So food production is obviously up, and as we go forward, I would say, in my opinion, we're in year one of a 3-year plan in terms of getting the property to where we want it, with tule growth, trees, and food production for waterfowl particularly. So things are looking good. Duck numbers as a whole, locally they're up. Continent's down a little bit, but there's going to be a lot of water on the landscape this year. So duck hunters tend to look at the numbers and how are the ducks looking this year? You got to go, right? I mean, to me, in my opinion, it's all where you're hunting, conditions, et cetera, if the ducks are in your area. But the only way to go harvest a duck is to go out and try to go out in the field. So some people just won't go considering the weather or whatnot. I'm only going to shoot storm days. It's one of the best hunts of my life. We've been on, clear days with a little bit of a breeze, so just you got to go. But the duck numbers tend to not.
Duck numbers are
my
different.
opinion.
I think
doesn't determine success.
Right. Correct. I think the biggest thing that we've seen this year that is solid facts is there is more water on the landscape, there's more rice on the landscape, and nobody really knows how that's going to change from last year, where there was the exact opposite of not very much rice on the landscape and not very much water. So those that did have water did really well. Yeah. Now everybody's going to have water. So it'll be interesting to see how those ducks spread out and use the landscape accordingly, with much more water and availability space-wise than they did in previous years.
Yeah. Right. And the only thing, the rice crop's a little, I think, later than normal. Mm-hmm. It's pretty green still. So that might, if you have water early, might help people out. But in terms of like refuges being fully flooded, and like there's really no water issues this year. So in terms of that, people should be able to be spaced out, but ducks are going to get spaced out as well, right? With the abundance of water.
Hunting's hunting. Some people get them and some people don't. It's just the way it is.
That's true. I mean, you can do it a million times. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Yeah. So if you just don't go hunting, you won't get what you want.
Yeah. And some people, they just, just don't go or do whatever and make excuses not to go.
Oh, man, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Saw the weather. I'm not going to go. Like, all right, we can't shoot them at home.
Yeah, it's not like the ducks are staying at home, eating chicken noodle soup, watching Letterman, right? I mean,
I've been
they're
on,
out still.
Yeah, I've been on many a hunts with buddies, and even if we're not shooting them, we'd look at each other. You go, somebody's getting them somewhere. Yeah, it's somebody shooting them somewhere. It may not be where we are right now, but somebody's shooting them.
Yeah. I mean, they're still out there. So, I mean, as far as the season and kind of the forecast looking ahead, are we feeling good? We looking good? I mean,
it's kind of what we talked about. I think hopes are high, but it's hunting season, and we thought last year, Suisun having water and nowhere else having water, that we were just going to crush them in the first half of the year, and that wasn't the case. So you think one thing and the ducks tell you different. So we'll go with hopes high and see where it leads us.
Yeah, you just never know. But I would say on a management perspective, the last couple of years has been pretty touch and go. Like, yep, we have curtailments. We can't flood. This is not going to be flooded. So it's been a game of what you could flood and what was available. Where this year, there's none of that. It's like it's available if you want it.
It's a free for all now.
Yeah, it's available if you want it and you want to pay for it. It's there. Be in the water.
Not the ducks.
Not necessarily.
the ducks will be there, maybe. So, I mean, just between you guys, is there any property that you yourself are looking forward to going to hunt, if given the time and opportunity?
Well, we don't really get to hunt our properties, so that's I guess would say I'm excited to see Sanborn continue to shooting better every single year. Always excited to kind of see what Quimby does. It's kind of, I think, one of our properties that it's unique. We can't take a lot of people out there just because the access. There's not a ton of pressure. So if you could blow a duck call and you like kind of being by yourself and amongst trees and whatnot, I think that's a pretty cool experience for our hunters. But yeah, it all depends on what you want to hunt. Like some people just absolutely love Denverton, right?
Yeah.
And then some people will be like, I'm never going to shoot the Sassoon Marsh. So it's just every hunter is different.
It's a preference.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I think looking forward is kind of mirrors you. I want to see what Sanborn does as a numbers aspect. I mean, we keep track of our numbers every year and what it does. And this is the first year we've been able to actually irrigate, which is the key to growing duck food is irrigating. So I want to see if what we've done will translate to, the numbers that we're thinking.
Absolutely.
Because if it doesn't, then it's like, okay, maybe we're doing something wrong. But in theory, it should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's all I have for you today. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
Awesome.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you for watching this Save It for the Blind podcast. If you liked this episode, please like and subscribe for more.